All right, talking sense, listeners and viewers. I'm so excited today. I've been counting down to have this guest on. We are honored to have Tracy Eiler, the CMO of Insideview, and she's going to talk about aligning sales and marketing as well as a bunch of other topics because Tracy is a real Renaissance woman, and I'm questioning if she ever sleeps since you've written a book, founded a nonprofit, mom, and CMO. So how does this all fit into any type of normal equation?
You know, I think it's all about boundaries, Latané, really, right? You have to decide where you're going to spend your precious time because it's the only thing, in theory, that we can control. And for me, it's work and family. But also, I think at this point in my career, I'm just super interested in helping to support the next generation of marketers. And,
Sure.
you know, so that's part of where I pick, you know, where I spend my time, like the Women in Revenue organization that I know we're going to talk about.
Yeah, I'm excited to talk about that one. Before we get into that, I do want to talk about Align to Achieve. It's a pretty big commitment to decide to write a book. What was kind of the impetus that you were like, you know what, I'm doing this? I'm all in.
What? I had always been interested in writing a book, but I thought it would be a very isolating experience, which it was. And I also didn't think it was something that you really do when you had a full-time job. But there was a business problem behind it, which was when I came to Insideview 4 years ago as CMO, we had a cross-sell problem. And we had a very well-established customer base with our Insideview sales product and fans in the sales organization. And we had a variety of new products that we could help marketers. And we were trying to parlay the sales relationship into the marketing relationship and just running into a brick wall almost every time. And so my co-author Andrea and I started putting our heads together, like, what are we going to do about this? Like, really, they don't like each other that much that we can't even get a warm intro from one department to another.
I do think the persona change is hard, though.
Yes, it is hard.
And I think it's hard for sellers, too.
But you would think, right, that there would at least be a, sure, I'll introduce you to Latané, no problem. And at the root of it is just sort of mistrust and not having a good relationship and not having, you know, a smooth lead to revenue journey. That was the root issue of it all. Because it's not that hard to make an introduction from one department to another, but we had customers literally saying like, I can't introduce you to her. I don't even really know what she does. So that for us was, you know, very puzzling, and we started digging into it, and it really turned out that the conflict between sales and marketing continues to be an age-old problem. Unfortunately, it's been a problem since I was 16 years old and had my first SDR job. And so we did a bunch of original research, interviewed a variety of companies, and started speaking about it in the industry. And then Wiley heard about it, the publisher Wiley, and said, you know, we think this could actually be a good business book. Would you be interested in doing it? And you know, we had a bunch of original material anyway, so it was like, okay, yeah, sure, we'll do that. That was like in January of that year, and the manuscript was due in May. It was 2016. So that was crazy, right? 5 months of, you know, just jamming
editing
But we launched it that fall. It's been out for a little over 2 years. It sold more than 20,000 copies, which is no one expected, right?
That's amazing.
Which is really great. It's gratifying because I think it's helping marketing and salespeople figure out their nexus point and figure out how to deal with the people issues, what to do about their processes, how to handle technology and data, and things of that nature.
Well, I like it too because I feel like there's sort of this a little bit in our industry like vanity, like, oh, I need to write a book just to write a book.
Yes.
And I love the fact that there is the research behind it. It's from a business need. It's not just, oh, let's have a campaign that's a book.
Yeah,
right?
It's legit. I mean, it's legit. And what's cool is that the original survey instrument that fueled the original manuscript, I've rerun it now again at the beginning of this last year, and you know, we watched how things change, right, and how they stay the same, and so that's, you know, it's a great topic. It's one that it is getting better in the industry. I think sales is getting closer to marketing, marketing is getting closer to sales. We're aligning around pipeline for once instead of counting leads, you know, things of that nature, but also the buyer's changing it, right? The buyer is staying anonymous for so long that we have to be, you know, a united front in order to engage.
This is coming up with all of our customers, and I'm sure yours, and the guests on Talking Sense is marketing has to, I don't want to say carry the ball because you have to work together the whole journey, but lead for a lot longer because people don't want to talk to sales.
We do.
And so the lion's share of that responsibility is now completely changed.
We do. Yeah. And we really have to help our sellers more than ever. I think, sales enablement becomes such a huge thing. It's gone beyond the normal onboarding and training to something that is super integrated. Sellers are really smart about the journey. They're really smart about the buying process and, and so on. So it's very integrated, way more than ever.
When you were on stage presenting and you said, we have this score of marketing muscle, I'm like, thank God, it's such a clean way to help people understand and also prioritize.
And also what it takes to be excellent in execution, right? Because to your point, sure, you can roll something on Open Table, send out 7 invites and hope people show up, right? But is it going to be memorable? Is it going to be an efficient dinner? Is the restaurant quiet enough? All of those things that us marketers think about. So those sorts of people, empathy building and communication. Another example of good communication is we hold something we call a Smarketing meeting, which is a cutesy name. Our VP of Sales came up with the name. Did not. It was me. But that meeting is a very specific meeting. So, of course we meet with our sellers on cadence of quarterly planning, annual planning, things of that nature. But what about what's happening right now and, 3 weeks ago and 3 weeks coming up? So there's this 6-week window and we meet every other week. And we talk about what just happened and how's the follow-up going from that thing. How did we rate that thing? Like, the latest conference we were just at or whatever the case may be. How is the digestion of the leads going, right? Are we getting stuck? Are we overwhelming our SDRs? All of that. And then what's coming up next? What's most immediate? And that very short-term focused meeting is very effective. It helps us marketing and stay in front of our sellers. It helps us get rapid feedback. It keeps them in the loop.
And it's not too much. It's like digestible.
You're absolutely
enough
right.
window that they can prepare without showing the whole plan.
Right. So that's really nice, and it's a great way to expose our individual contributor marketing managers. So, they can talk about their campaign, which is great. And then, the sales leaders come to that meeting, and I ask them to bring a lieutenant, bring a top seller, and rotating them in, right? And that helps a lot because then those folks start learning, what does it take to execute that executive dinner. So those are people takeaways. There's also a lot of process takeaways and some regarding technology and data.
Cool. Awesome. Well, we'll all have to go and read it. Thanks for sharing some of the clip notes with us. I want to transition and talk a little bit about InsideView. I've been a customer of InsideView. Love the product. We're partners with you guys. I mean, the need that you fill is just tremendous. I recently heard a stat from Forrester that only 13% of marketers have any confidence in and sellers have any confidence in their data. So, wide open space of problem to fill.
Right.
What are you guys up to? How's it going?
Right.
Give us a little bit of history and maybe what you're going to do at InsideView.
What you're talking about is the criticality of having a data strategy when you're in sales and marketing. And I think in the old days, even just going back 2-3 years ago, we used to just sort of deal with what was in our CRM or lists we could buy or campaigns we could run, right? And we're finding that the modern marketers are being much more intentional about the accounts they're going after. Of course, we all know about the account-based marketing craze, but it's really more than that. When you think about how can I confidently go to market? Do I really know my ideal customer? Do I really know the total addressable market? Do I really know? Down to the level of what accounts and where they are and who the people are in those accounts. That's what we do. We help our customers figure out their go-to-market strategy at that level of what's my ideal customer by helping them with lookalikes, and then what is my TAM, my total addressable market. And that leads to intelligent account selection when it comes to ABM programs. It leads to smart territory planning. And then we have a platform essentially that feeds that data, into their CRM so that they can run campaigns and do account research. So we're very much have elevated our value add from something that was account research when I joined the company and we were only selling to sellers to something that is really helping in the C-suite with go-to-market planning, and then you can do that execution. So if you think about, your tech stack, your systems, marketing automation, and CRM, they're empty shells, right? They're just empty shells of functionality. We have to feed them, with smart information. And we also know that people are constantly changing companies.
Oh, yeah.
Companies
You're never
are
done.
constantly changing, right?
Yeah.
So this is not a set and forget. Data hygiene and data planning and all that is just something that has to be a fundamental practice, I think, of marketeers.
So along those lines, we're hearing a lot about revenue operations. And one of the things that when I came over to Sixth Sense, I used to have marketing ops and sales ops, but we decided, Mark and I, let's have data and data owned by kind of one individual, one function, make sure we're on the same page. I would think that role is becoming pretty critical in the industry and a great use case for what you're talking about, like aligning sales and marketing.
I think it is growing in the industry, but I think it's growing on the coasts where you'd expect, right? New York and San Francisco tech companies are starting to bring it all together under one. But there are, thought leaders from SiriusDecions, as an example, Dana Tarian, who talks about that if you have one consolidated revenue ops team who manages all the tech stack and all of the data strategy underneath it, and the reporting, especially, that goes along with that, lead to revenue and repeat revenue, you're going to be a higher performing business. I think the devil is in the details, right? Where does this team report? Where does their authority and functionality begin and end? Like, I know as a CMO, there's no way I'm going to give up campaign execution. So where does marketing ops, right? Does marketing ops do campaign execution, or are they part of this revenue ops team? The way we've designed it in our company is we have blended it all together for the same reasons that you talked about. But the campaign execution piece stays in marketing, where I think it belongs.
Yeah,
right?
totally.
Doing a 7-step nurture. I don't want to go knock on the
No. Yeah, I'm totally with you.
But being able to go to one team for reporting, especially, and also data hygiene, right? Just making sure that all the lead to account mapping is correct, and that lead routing doesn't break, and that we're enriching things the way we need to, and all of that is much better in one organization. So I think we'll see that continue to grow.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of a simple lady, and I just said I don't want to have a set of dashboards, and our chief customer officer to have a set of dashboards, and sales to have a set of dashboards.
By the way, they conflict.
Yeah, and they don't it's embarrassing. I'm like, as long as we have, and he can have his own dashboard, but there's one pipeline chart that we all refresh, and so that was kind of my objective on having it together was, just making sure that we tie out. It's like basic accounting. Right?
Yeah, definitely.
We want the data to tie out.
I think the thing that's unanswered is, where should that group report? Right?
Does it matter, you think?
Well, I think it should report to marketing, I'll just say. And I think that's because the reason I believe that is, if it reported into sales, I think we'd run into the same problem that we run into with some of our alignment issues, where we'd end up too short-term focused, and things that require longer investment, things like that would
things
go
that aren't
unanswered.
this quarter.
Now, in a perfect world, I think that team would report into a COO kind of person and be a peer, right, to CRO, CMO, and then we would be customers of that function. But the reality is, I don't really know that that's going to happen, right? So at least in our organization, that function reports to our head of sales, but I am really the executive sponsor that's giving them almost all their guidance, because he doesn't have time to help them and support them and get them the resources they need for the longer term stuff.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, that sounds like it makes sense, and it's probably one of those functions. It's a little like SDRs, where
it could be anywhere. It
it's like you can really make the case either way.
You can.
And some of it comes down to, do we have the right leader and what's most critical right now? And it's a little bit of one of those things.
Yeah, I really think, and a SiriusDecions stat that I heard from James was 54% of the time SDRs are reporting into marketing, and then the other half into sales. So it might as well just be a coin flip, right?
Right.
But they did have data that said that the higher growth companies, it was part of marketing. So that's of note. I mean, I love having SDRs part of marketing. but it's been either way in my career, right? 50-50. I think that team should really report into whatever executive is the most passionate about it, is willing to invest in those people because they can be your next sellers,
Yeah.
right? And is willing to put in the time to make sure that all the processes are right? Because there's so much conflict that comes from handoffs. That's a lesson from the book. All of these, lead to MQL, sales accepted, and so on. Every time you're passing, it's just fraught with argument and issue.
It's an opportunity for problems.
It is. So the better process you can have, the more fidelity you can have for that process, and so on. I think that, marketing cares a lot about that, and sales is trying to get the deal closed. So I feel like, I know that I care passionately about it, and am willing to, invest the time and the support that the SDR team needs to be successful. So.
Love it, love it. So let's talk about women in revenue. So honored to be, Sixth Sense is very honored to be part of Women in Revenue and sponsoring it. But maybe back up, like, how did the idea come together? Tell us a little bit about what it is and maybe what you see in the future for that.
Sure.
Group.
So last fall, November of 2018, a loosely networked group of sales and marketing executives that are all women got together, and our core founder is a woman named Sherry Johnston, and she had this vision of putting together some kind of organization to help women that were in revenue positions. And she grabbed the Women in Revenue URL, .org, by the way, and then started pulling into our network sales and marketing leaders that might want to get involved in the same mission. And so came up with 11 of us, and we're about half sales, half marketing, and we all came together with this shared need where we saw that our sisters in engineering there are more organizations now to help women that are in those STEM roles, girls who code, as an example.
Right. They're self-organizing.
Yeah, they're self-organizing. They're ahead of us in that regard. But what do you do if you are a sales manager and you want to be a CRO and you're a woman? What do you, I think there are more female CMOs. Case in point, the two of us. But there are fewer leaders in sales. Way less. And so we came together with the express interest of, okay, let's figure out, first of all, what these women need, and then secondly, what gap can we fill? So what do? We ran a survey, right? We asked the market what's hard about being a female in these roles, and what do you need from your companies and from your allies, your male allies in particular, right? We need our brothers in this. And gathered a bunch of great information, and then put together a vision, which is just two things: provide networking opportunities for women in sales and marketing, and mentorship opportunities. So we're just kicking off the mentorship part. We've had quarterly events so far, just two, for networking. In fact, our last one was really neat. You were part of it, so we called it Table Talks. And so there was a cocktail hour, and then you could self-select into a table of a topic you cared about, like building your personal brand, like how to work on your public speaking skills, like how to negotiate compensation, led by somebody who had been through that, an executive that could give advice. And so the group's very early on. We're just under 500 members. We have great sponsors like Sixth Sense and others. The bigger vision is, imagine 2 years from now where there's an Austin chapter and a New York chapter, Chicago chapter, and so on.
Those local meetups, that kind of becomes
it's a huge piece of it. So for now, we found it in the Bay Area, but we have members all over the country because it doesn't require, a live, communication. Yes, I would love you to do Chicago, and we should partner with SiriusDecions on doing Austin next year as an example, right? So that's the organization. Very simple. There's lots of great content. I personally wrote our report following the survey that I talked about.
Yeah, I wanted to ask about.
I did a bunch of third-party research because our sample size, frankly, was pretty small. We had 103 women respondents. They were all Bay Area. They were all B2B tech, right? It's like, okay, it's a little too homogeneous to get,
good insights.
Yeah, scalable insights. And so I did a variety of other first-party research. There's great content coming out of Harvard Business Review, out of McKinsey. And then I found an organization, I don't know if you've ever heard of, called Fairy Godboss.
No.
They're basically trying to be Glassdoor for women. And
that's really interesting.
Go to fairygodboss.com.
So much of it is, it's interesting, clearly this is a topic that's really big at Sixth Sense, and something I don't know if I thought as much about, unfortunately, before, but something that I'm thinking about a lot more. And, we need to stick together and have our networks to elevate, but there's also such a big role that men need to play
Yes.
in being our sponsors.
Yes.
And so I really thought back and I'm like, if I think about my career, it's been a man who has taken a risk on me, Chris Heineken, Chris Barbin, and said, give this crazy lady a chance. So I think a lot of it is about helping, women ask for the chance.
Right.
And each other giving each other the chance. But as well as making sure that we share the findings with men in like a safe way.
Yes, definitely. One of the pieces of research that came into this report, and you can get it from womeninrevenue.org, it's an ebook format, about 30 pages. I did a lot of compensation comparison research, and I knew there were going to be gaps. I didn't expect to find gaps in sales, though. I mean, sales
that's so straightforward.
binary. It's binary, right? You either make a number or you don't make a number. So there's more research to be done there because there are significant gaps in comp for women in sales, which is just bizarre to me. So, I was able to only go so far in terms of my data, so that's a thread that needs to be pulled, but it's a really important one, and I think exposing that to our male allies is really important.
Yeah, and I love the Fairy Godboss concept because what Glassdoor and G2 Crowd, and they've brought transparency
Yes.
to it, which provides, with the right sample size, obviously, does provide a good amount of accountability about being a great leader for women on your team, but also men on your team.
I like to think of it, I have this phrase I call the old girl network, right? And we, many of us have that, where there's about 9 women, old girls, known them forever, and they are the ones that I call, when I say I've got this kind of problem, or I'm trying to negotiate this sort of thing, or God, I just found out I'm pregnant, those
what do I do?
Sorts of really honest, pure conversations. So I'm excited to see more of what Fairy Godboss does, because I think, get some little inside scoop that you wouldn't get if you didn't know anything.
Awesome. Well, I mean, again, I'm still questioning the sleep thing, but I'm gonna believe that you're just great at prioritizing. But what's next? Like, what are you looking to do next, Tracy?
At this point in my career, I am really trying to help the next generation. I mentioned that earlier. And so I'm doing that a variety of ways. Some of them is platforms like this. Some of them is Women in Revenue. I'm also teaching. There's a really great organization called Green Fig that is, think of Udemy or Coursera, but for digital marketing.
Oh, very
And they have a 16-week course that is creating job-ready digital marketers. They might be military spouses. They might be Paralympic athletes. They might be people that are in college studying liberal arts and know that they're going to graduate with no skills, right? And I'm really excited about that kind of thing, because I think our education system falls short in preparing people to be in B2B marketing or sales careers. They just don't really help. There's a handful of programs.
Well, I think they're very general, and
They are.
what we do is more complicated than I think any of us would like, given the technology and the analytical skills.
Yeah.
And they are skills that you either have or don't have.
Right.
And they can be taught.
They absolutely can be taught. So that's exciting to me, and really, really interesting. There might be another book someday. I don't know. It was a very isolating experience, and I'm fueled
Not sure
by
you have it
energy by
again?
people. Yeah, so we'll see. But there's so many people to help. There's so many things to get involved in that I'm just really excited about that next thing, and helping my son figure out where he wants to go to college. That's on the project list right now.
All right. Well, listeners and viewers, if you have any advice for Tracy's son, let us know. And I just want to say it's very inspiring, everything you're doing. You're inspiring to me, and I'm sure everyone tuning in.
Thank you.
So thanks for being such a force in the industry.
Thanks for doing this program.